Alright guys, I'm doing something different. So it's kind of become Nintendo tradition at this point to release their June Directs while I'm out of town. So I was not able to react to this one live. But I thought this time, instead of just waiting a whole week of being unspoiled of announcements, which would have been absolutely impossible this time around, I thought I would just add to the discussion for games that people want to hear my opinions of. I just can't believe that they had so many actual announcements for the Switch, obviously being in its heyday years. It's definitely leaning toward the possibility that the Switch 2 is pretty much soft confirmed to be backwards compatible at this point in order to play all these games that are actually seeming to be pretty significant titles for it. They have everything sorted out into chapters down here, so instead of watching the whole Direct, I'm just kind of gonna go over the parts that seem most important, or the ones I want to talk about. There are some people out there that are claiming that Nintendo single-handedly won Summer Games Fest this year just through this Direct alone. And I kind of agree and I kind of disagree. The reason why I say that this Direct will be make or break for a lot of people mainly comes down to how much you really care about the first game that they showed, which, holy cow, I cannot believe I'm saying this, is a new Mario and Luigi RPG. Now, I know to a whole lot of people, they just see this and like, what in the world, Mario and Luigi getting another game? That's nothing special about that. They make Mario games all the time. No, let me brief you with the background of this game, okay? So the Mario and Luigi games are a lot different than your run-of-the-mill Mario romps, okay? So these are RPGs that used to be made by a company called Alpha Dream. Unfortunately, in 2019, they declared bankruptcy, which kind of threw the future of the Mario and Luigi RPG series up in the air for what in the world was going to happen to it. Nintendo didn't buy out the company or anything, and nobody knew exactly who had the rights to what. If you ask me, I did not have hope that we'd ever see another true Mario and Luigi game other than maybe like bringing back older games for NSO and stuff like that. But now, just the fact that we know that Mario and Luigi has a future, honestly, is the best thing I've heard all day. Like, I can't even speak. This announcement, okay, I know it would have been awesome to have my actual raw reaction to this, but I was actually jaw dropped to the floor when they revealed this, because I was not expecting this for 100 years, and I am a huge Mario and Luigi fan. If you asked me what I genuinely thought that the Switch was missing in its library, I would 100% tell you prior to this moment that it is missing Mario and Luigi. But the fact that it is finally getting a Mario and Luigi game, and that we have Mario and Luigi, we have modern Paper Mario, we have classic Paper Mario, and we have Super Mario RPG. The Switch is a Mario RPG behemoth now, and I can't believe it took this long. But we finally got there. That is amazing. I think this will be a nice challenge for the new Mario voice actor to do, because obviously this is going to be the first real significant game. Wow, look at that swash and stretch animations in this. That's really nice. Enemies that look like they came from Dream Team. And you also got this enemy that looks like Bowser's Inside Story. That's really cool. Little cute outlet girl. Bowser's back, obviously, but he's probably not the big bad. Who knows? We got this cute little not pig looking dude. A lot of people are saying that Starlo has been found dead on a Miami beach. I don't know. I think Starlo could come back. I think it would be interesting to not have Starlo in this adventure, but I don't know. I mean, it looks fun. It's coming out November 7th. That is crazy soon. Holy cow. I can't wait for that. But we don't know who is developing this game because obviously Alpha Dream is bankrupt. Supposedly there's been reports that a lot of people from Alpha Dream have just went into different divisions of Nintendo. One idea that's been tossed around is that it could be made by Intelligent Systems. I feel like that would be cool because they also do the Paper Mario RPGs, and Intelligent Systems is a respectably kind of large asset of Nintendo. But there is some things in me that say that it doesn't really check out because, I don't know, I've always kind of viewed the Mario and Luigi and Paper Mario series as kind of like indirect competition, and you kind of want that to kind of make your games better and better. Personally, I wouldn't count on it being Intelligent Systems. Don't get me wrong, it would be incredibly cool if Intelligent Systems was actually making Mario and Luigi. I love Intelligent Systems, but I just have my personal doubts that it's really Mario, or they're really doing that, especially since they just made Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door remake. I don't think they would be working at 2 Mario RPGs at once, especially how many IPs Intelligent Systems works on. The second potential idea that some people are speculating is, what if the people who worked on the Super Mario RPG remake would be in charge of the Mario and Luigi series, which is interesting because that's how Alpha Dream was originally formed in the first place, because it was just ex-Square members who left to work closer with Nintendo games on the Game Boy, and eventually they would get Mario and Luigi. But as cool as that would be, I don't really see that happening either, even though a lot of the staff does carry over. Probably a few staff members, but as cool as that would be, I just don't really see that being a reality. I mean, history repeats itself, but it doesn't repeat itself like that, you know? And I even heard a third possibility, that it's maybe the people that worked on, like, the Pokemon Diamond and Pearl remakes that are doing this game, which to me would be kind of crazy. They already kind of have those people working for Pokemon, but at the same time, it kind of makes sense, because if you think of what Pokemon is, it's just the Pokemon company just dumping a whole lot of assets at somebody and saying, hey, make something with this. That probably could have been the same thing here, but I personally have my doubts about that the most, even though there is still kind of a kernel of sense that that would make to me. So yeah, it's going to be interesting in who's developing this game. It definitely looks like it channels a lot more of the early Alpha Dream kind of games. Like, I'm definitely getting like Tomato Adventure and Mario and Luigi Superstar vibes with this. The characters are all looking really original, and that's awesome. The concept of the brothership, that is something so cool. I think it would be so cool to like totally Wind Waker this and just make all of those islands like completely explorable at your own will. But I'm going to assume that it's going to play a bit more like Partners in Time, where they're clearly separated areas from each other, which I guess makes a bit more sense if they're coming back to it. I mean, it looks pretty good. I thought this would be a natural evolution to go full 3D for this series, like bringing it to the Switch. Of course, I do kind of miss the sprite art a little bit, rest in peace, but I think this looks good too. I just think it's the fact that Mario and Luigi has a future at all. That's just the biggest thing. Like, that's insane. I think that's the big thing. That's the big thing with this announcement. It's not like Nintendo is just making a game for a series that hasn't gotten a game in 5 years, which is true. It's more of the fact that this is a franchise that we all assumed was dead. It was no more. And this is a resurrection moment. So that's why, for a lot of people, this pretty much absolutely made the direct. And I absolutely agree. But here's the other side of the coin, though. If you're not a fan of Mario and Luigi, I've got some sad news for you when it comes to this direct, because you can see these time codes down here. Mario and Luigi gets a pretty significant chunk. That's nice. What's coming next? Nintendo World Championship. We already knew about that game. It's NES Classic Edition with NSO support. Fairy Tail 2. Fantasy Neo Dimension. Nintendo Switch Sports is for some reason getting basketball. It's like, if you don't care about Mario and Luigi and this like 3 minutes was nothing to you, there is pretty much nothing going forward until the first like fourth of the direct. But yeah, look at this, Disney Illusion Island, Hello Kitty Island Adventure. This is the content we're working with. Looney Tunes is getting a game. They're getting a Space Jam game, it seems, except it's not called Space Jam. Look at this. It's a Looney Tunes basketball game. That is not... It's a Looney Tunes basketball, but it's not Space Jam. This is sad. This makes me sad. It honestly looks just like whatchamacallit. It looks just like Mario and Luigi too. Just the cell shading that they have going for it. It seems to be a really popular thing nowadays. Having this crazy kind of look to it. Where the characters have thick outlines. I mean, I think it takes a little bit to catch on. I think that really translates well into like things like Fortnite skins, but obviously it takes some practice to get that aesthetic down. Kind of have it completely done yet with the art style here. Let's see, what are these other games? Oh, you got Among Us. Where's an Among Us? Yeah, you got Among Us. It's Among Us. But yeah, basically, until you get to like this 12-minute mark, that's when you get your next actual Nintendo announcement, which is like a third of the entire direct. Anyways, next we got Donkey Kong Country Returns HD, which is a really weird instance of Nintendo remaking a game that already has a remake on the 3DS. So this is a game that they remade, I suppose. Of course, this obviously being the compromise. The thing with Donkey Kong Country Returns is that before it had two different versions that you had give or take reasons to play them. You could play the Wii version, which obviously had the big screen and easy multiplayer and stuff like that. and that's cool, but you had to deal with shaking the Wii remote in order to get Donkey Kong to roll, and Donkey Kong Country Returns is a pretty difficult game, and you kind of need precise controls, especially if you're going for all of the collectibles, so it's kind of frustrating to play in a way, but more because of the controls. Which is kind of bad. But they do have the 3DS version, of which is of course on the smaller screen and has optional content, but they made a rolling into a button, so that's good. So it's like between those two versions, the DS version was cited, but if you want my honest opinion, the 3DS version, just the drop in frame rate kind of diminished the aesthetic of the game for me personally, and to me at least, the levels that they did add to the game, they didn't really feel like they were outstanding levels. It was just kind of more levels for the sake of adding more levels because you're playing the game again on a console that has to pretty much compensate for the actual lack of like visuals and stuff like that you'd be getting in the original. And it also offered some like easier ways to play the game for newcomers. But this version seems to be like the definitive version of the two. This game just kind of feels like a hard sell to me though, for me to like recommend for somebody who really wants to play Donkey Kong Country there this first time, because I'm going to be completely honest, if you really want to play like the modern Donkey Kong Country games, Tropical Freeze is like sitting right there on the Nintendo Switch, and I like Donkey Kong Country Returns, but I love Tropical Freeze. I feel like that game is so much better paced. I feel like that game is even, basically it just takes Donkey Kong Country Returns and pretty much blows it out of the water. If you want to give Donkey Kong Country a fair shot of what it can do in this modern day and age, I would absolutely recommend Tropical Freeze. I would say that Tropical Freeze is way easier to start out with, but it is also harder if you 100% it. So it's easier to get into, but there is even more challenge there for people who are looking for it. It's a good compromise of the two, I think. But yeah, I suppose this is kind of more for the people that grew up with Donkey Kong Country Returns and really want that cross between the best of both worlds. Otherwise, it's still super fun to play on its own, don't get me wrong. It's just that if you're new to the series, I'd probably still recommend Tropical Freeze first, because that is the series' best forte into modern Donkey Kong. But Donkey Kong Country Returns is also nice to have because there's a lot of callbacks in Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. And it's cool to see where it obviously started off as, so that's kind of cool. So I hope people are liking that. I probably won't pick it up unless if I find it for the cheap though. I mean, next up was like Dragon Quest. Honestly, I was kind of a little interested in this because I always lend an ear whenever Dragon Quest stuff happens, because you never know if that might lead into Fortune Street or something like that. Obviously this time it didn't, but oh well, I was kind of excited when I heard the cut Fortune Street credits music being used, because that comes from this remake. There's a Funko game, I guess. Luigi's Mansion 2 HD. That's coming out later this month. I don't know how well it will do. I will say, it doesn't really look like it's improved much graphically since I've last saw it. That was my biggest takeaway, because obviously the game prides on itself being HD, and it kind of looks more like Luigi's Mansion 2 up-resed, if we're being completely honest. It doesn't even look like they're really adding too much to it, so I guess it's just for people who didn't get to really play the original as much as they wanted to. Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon has kind of gotten a mixed reputation across the years. Some people love it, some people don't like it so much. I love Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon myself. It's a pretty good game on its own, even if it's not exactly like the original. It's more like a soft reboot of this series than it is a successor to the original. But I might get it. Maybe if it goes on sale on Halloween, like Luigi's Mansion usually does. But I think I'm okay for my Switch fix for Luigi's Mansion right now. I can still replay Luigi's Mansion 3 if I really wanted to. I'm not sure how well it will do on the Nintendo Switch. I feel like, again, it's an instance where I think I would rather recommend Luigi's Mansion 3 for the console that it's on. But if you're in the mood for Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon, feel free to go ahead, I guess. Then we got this really weird game, the new Dampa Man, whatever the heck that is. It's not from Nintendo. Looks like it comes from Namco or something, but that's not true. It comes from Genius Variety. But yeah, you got Metal Slug in here, Darkest Dungeon 2. Let's see, you got the NSO games. I mean, a way to play Four Swords Adventures actually, like, legitimately. That's actually pretty cool. It's kind of like Mario Kart Super Circuit, where it's just like the novelty of finally being able to play most of these games with other people realistically. That is probably the main novelty of it. Also, there's a mature N64 games coming, which, I mean, if we're being completely honest, I just think it's funny because they have like an M-rated Nintendo Switch like app because the games are obviously rated M. But I feel like they were rated M because of the time that they came out. If you told me that Perfect Dark was an M-rated game, look, I've played Perfect Dark. I mean, Perfect Dark has some pretty, like, atmospheric things about the game. Obviously, there's some kind of, like, spooky elements to it, or, like, there's some kind of, like, spooky mysteries going on in the game. But Perfect Dark is, like, not an M-rated game. Let's be completely honest. That game should be rated T at most. I don't think I could think of a single thing that is genuinely deserving of an M rating when it comes to Perfect Dark. And again, it's like Turok. It's like, sure, there's blood, but it's literally dinosaurs. It's like, why is that rated M? That being said, N64 has an M-rated selection, and everyone's thinking, is Conker gonna come? I don't know, man. Conker's a hard game to like anticipate for. I don't think even Microsoft really cares about Conker's Bad Fur Day too much anymore. I've played it. It's not probably the best game that's held up today. That's all I can really say about it. I know a lot of people are nostalgic for it, but I don't know, I just couldn't get into it. But anyways, that's the speculation. And why would you only have an app that only has 2 games if Conker's not coming, you know? Oh well. What else is coming? There's Phantom Brave, The Lost Hero, Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collections coming. Okay, you got Mario Party. Look at this. I knew we were gonna get another Mario Party, okay? It's ND Cube's philosophy of let's make as many Mario Parties on the consoles that we can as possible. Like the 3DS had 3 Mario Parties, and I guess the Switch gets 3 Mario Parties too. It's a shame because everyone's like, oh, why doesn't Mario Party Superstars get DLC? And you'll see why. It's like, why would you make DLC when you could just make a new $60 game? And there we go. Look at that. You already got like old maps. You got this like coconut ball looking place. I hate to be the stick in the mud, but I think I've lost faith in the Mario Party series, to be completely honest. It's kind of sad for me because I tried very hard to give the latest entries a chance. But yeah, look at that. You just got there. You want to know where your Mario Party Superstars DLC went? They put it in here. They just decided, let's just make a new game out of it instead of actually provide it as DLC so that we can get people buying the old ones. I think I've just lost hope in NDQ making a fun Mario Party for me. I know that people these days, they're able to have fun with it. They're celebrating over the fact that Mario Party finally has online. That's cool for them. But if you want my honest opinion, all of the Mario parties that ND Cube has handled feel like they have more DNA to Wii Party than they do with classic Mario Party to me. Like, Superstars was the final nail in the coffin for me, that even if they had the carbon copy blueprint of a Mario Party, they can't replicate old Mario Party with it. It just misses out on what made the originals good. If you want me to be completely critical, I just feel like the actual gameplay of the new Mario parties is just so underwhelming to me. I don't think the actual boards in question are very well balanced, or the mechanics. It's like, I saw it in the trailer. Stars are worth 10 coins again. Why would you make stars 10 coins? That literally means you need a single minigame in order to buy a star. For me, that is way too generous. The economies are always scuffed, the items are always busted, and super free to obtain. So the game basically becomes a matter of speed and seeing how lucky you get with rolls than it actually is winning the mini games. in the minigames themselves, at least in Superstars, they all just kind of felt like they were out of their element being made in the Superstars engine. They don't feel as snappy as they do in their original counterparts. Like, pretty much all of the GameCube Mario Party minigames in that game felt so much better to play on the actual GameCube installments. You can maybe make a few arguments about the N64 minigames being better, just because the N64 had some pretty janky movement, but I don't know. It's just, to me, I've already got 8+ Mario Parties that were made by Hudson Soft, and that for me is where Mario Party lies, and I can replay those anytime. There's so much content in those games that I've kind of just given up on modern Mario Party, as sad as it sounds. But oh well, somebody will get this and they'll like it, I'm sure of it. Anyways, let's see what else there is. Oh, here's one of the reasons why people say this Direct is insane. It's because we're getting a Legend of Zelda game that's actually a Zelda game. That's actually pretty cool. I mean, being able to play as Zelda is far overdue. She was playable in Wand of Gamelon, the one for the Philips CDI. Dude, Link being able to jump and kill Ganondorf is kind of unhinged, though. That's kind of funny. I'm assuming that Grezzo is making this game, because it's obviously using the same assets as A Link's Awakening. That being said, it is kind of cool that we're getting to see Zelda take a bit more pacifistic of a role in the Zelda adventure. But yeah, as you can see, here's Hyrule. It is kind of jarring to see that the art style is getting reused for this game, because the whole concept of this game having that art style is because Link's Awakening is a dream. So, is this a dream too then? I don't know. That being said, this game does look a little bit interesting. It doesn't look like it's quite classic Zelda, which is what I was hoping for. It looks like they're kind of doing their own unique thing with it. Zelda being a more pacifistic character, basically controlling the world with Animal Crossing abilities of placing down furniture and rocks and stuff like that. It's still a cool premise, and I'm pretty sure they'll still have Zelda-like elements to this game. I don't know if I'll pick it up or not. I probably will, because it is a new game, but I actually didn't pick up Link's Awakening, so I feel like it would be weird to not have that also in my collection. And obviously, Grezzo has had plenty of Zelda experience before. I'm pretty sure they're the ones who made Triforce Heroes on the 3DS. But yeah, as you can see here, I wonder how the balancing is gonna work for this game. That's a little interesting to me, because it's like, will you really be able to put just 1,000,000 tables? That doesn't really make sense. You'd just be able to like climb literally any surface. You place down enemies and have like a little army roll. That's kind of cool. I'm just interested in like, what's the balance? Like, what's the mechanic? Like, is there a certain amount of stuff you could place on the screen? Is it like a magic meter? I'm just trying to figure out how in the world's like the game is actually balanced to be able to like do the things. I'm assuming it's how many triangles are on the thing's head, but I don't know for sure. The little Starlo guy's head. I'm interested in it. It just looks like a good premise. Oh, that guy is dead. That guy is dead. I just think it's neat. But yeah. But yeah, as you can see, whatever is left is coming. There's Just Dance. Lego Horizon Adventures. It's kind of unhinged to see Sony making a game on a Nintendo console. And it's not like it's happened before, but this is like an actual Sony property. Like, before it was just like, it's baseball. Sure, you can put baseball on Nintendo, who the frick cares? But this is straight up Sony. Sony working on Nintendo. Who would have thought we'd see it? It's a little bit funny to me, because obviously the main thing about the PS5 right now that everybody is saying is the PS5 has no games. When obviously if they had this on the PS5, that would just be another game that they have. So obviously I feel like this is a sign that they're perfectly content with how things are going. I don't know. It's just kind of unhinged to see the PlayStation logo on a Nintendo console, even if it hasn't even if it's already happened before with that one baseball game. It's just funny. Obviously, I think they did this for the better. They're probably going to get a lot of sales through kids, and obviously getting kids exposed to Horizon Adventures just makes more sense for the future when they make Horizon games on their actual console. So I kind of view this as a mutualistic win. I could totally see why they want to do this. honestly, probably a good practice. But seeing this game come on a Nintendo console, and probably Xbox too, let's be completely honest, is kind of silly to see. It took me off guard. Supposedly it was released, or it was announced even before the Direct, but that took me by surprise when I saw this live. So, not a whole lot left. There's Stray. Stray is a cat adventure game that has some questionable design choices, but it's there for people who want to just play as a cat, you know? Sometimes that's all it takes. It seems to be running well in the trailers, so that's nice. Tales of the Shire, a Lord of the Rings game. Okay, here's something I was gonna say if I was reacting to this game, just so I could still kind of have an element of my reactions. But Lord of the Rings is like a series I have seen. I haven't seen all the movies front to end all together, but I've seen all of the movies like in the series, but I cannot tell you a single thing about the Lord of the Rings series. And again, I've seen all the movies. It's like I've seen all the Star Wars movies, but at least I get the Star Wars movies, you know, like I can tell you a general plot of what's happening in those. I cannot tell you a single thing about what happens in frickin' the Lord of the Rings. There's 2 Gandalfs, and there's a ring, and there's a bunch of guys, and the ring is good. I don't know, man. It's just maybe not my cup of tea, but I can't follow Lord of the Rings. For fans of Ace Attorney, you got Edgeworth's games coming back from the DS. That's pretty cool. Ace Attorney is more like a detective series with like law elements to it. You got Gumshoe there, that's great. So if you like detective games, they're worth checking out. But you play as Edgeworth, which is a character of all time. I like this trailer so much. It's so dumb. Anyways, so this game, to be honest, I'm not exactly sure what it is. Of what I've heard, this is not Danganronpa, even though it seems like Dragonropa or whatever. Unfortunately, though, I've heard the people behind this series did not get the actual funding for this game. So they're saying it's a lot more like an indie project. So I hope they can recoup from this. Unfortunately, as somebody who cannot actually even comprehend the title of this game, I don't even frickin' know if I'm gonna buy it. But hopefully it pans out for them. And then last but not least, we had Metroid Prime 4, which honestly, I either was expecting this to be the final announcement or Metroid Prime 2 and 3 remakes. I'm so happy that they actually did end up finally giving us some intel on Metroid Prime 4, because man, this game looks great. I mean, coming from the trilogy that was on the Wii, holy cow, this game looks so good. Like, I mean, it's Metroid Prime, which I know is like a hit or miss thing with a lot of people. Metroid is a lot smaller of a Nintendo franchise than a lot of people say. A lot of people were speculating, was this going to be the game that launches with the Switch 2? And I kind of thought about that at first because it was kind of following the same patterns as Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild did with the Wii U and the Switch. I feel like it's a lot better to cap off the Switch's life with a Metroid game than to try and sell everyone on a new console with the premise of Metroid Prime, because that would be a hard sell for a lot of people. It would definitely not be as easy of a sell as something like Legend of Zelda or Mario Kart. So honestly, game looks great. I'll probably pick it up. I still have to play Metroid Dread. I haven't had time to play that one recently, but obviously Metroid's pretty fun. A lot more atmospheric and exploration packed than your typical Nintendo adventure. That's kind of what gives its own unique feel. You gotta get immersed in the worlds and the maps for these games, and that's what I kind of like about it. So yeah, that's exciting. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the Direct. I mean, it is a lot, but it's also a little at the same time, because it's basically like your big things here in this Direct obviously were Mario and Luigi resurrected from the grave. That's probably the biggest takeaway of all. Honestly, seeing Metroid Prime 4 footage, that is also a huge thing. That game has had such a strange development history, it seems. And then you got a new Zelda game coming where you actually play as Zelda. It might be a little bit like classic Zelda, but who knows. And then you got little things like you got Mario Party and you got a Donkey Kong Country remake. And that's probably the big 5 things from Nintendo, if we're not counting Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon, which we all already knew about last year. But yeah, I mean, it is a good Nintendo Direct, don't get me wrong. I mean, the premise of Mario and Luigi not being dead honestly, is enough to make this a good direct for me. I don't know if I'd put it in S tier though, especially for people who don't like Mario and Luigi, because again, that first whole block of the direct was basically just hinging entirely on that. If you had no interest, I don't think you're gonna go into this one very strong. The other takeaway from this direct is that seems like Nintendo's finally cracked down on a lot of the ways that their new games were getting leaked. I don't know if that was through the website or the eShop or something, but it seems like a lot of people who have been reliably leaking information about games finally are getting to the point that they can't do that anymore. So that's probably good. It definitely kept some surprises on the table as far as Mario and Luigi goes. I don't think anyone saw that coming, but I'm not the biggest fan of like ranking Nintendo Directs. I think this one was pretty good. Obviously, just the premise of Mario and Luigi having a future at all kind of makes this feel like a win for a lot of people. But as far as directs go, I feel like it was a little bit dry in the middle. But that's just going to happen because Nintendo's directs are basically just showing about news. I don't really feel like it's really fair to rank them and how much they can show, because it's obviously going to depend on what games they actually have to show. And to be honest, they only had like 5 games to show this time around, so it's not really a lot compared to something like E3 or even the direct last year around this time. But yeah, I mean, for the end of a Switch's life cycle, I think this was way bigger than anyone was expecting it to be. If you guys like this kind of form of content where instead I kind of do discussions for the Nintendo Directs that I don't get to actually react to, feel free to leave a comment below and maybe I'll do this in the future for the ones that I miss. Otherwise, feel free to maybe say that I like the other reactions better and I'll maybe hold off seeing any footage or any news about it whatsoever until I actually do it. But who knows? Alright guys, thanks for watching and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.